Hello everyone. It's been a long time since I uploaded anything. Life kind of does that to you when you have kids and everything. But there's been a lot of things in the news over the times the last couple weeks. And although I don't really want to talk about that, although I think what I'm going to talk about kind of like dovetails about that as well. Um, there is a YouTuber out there that is can be brash, um, in your face, something that uh, free speech was always about. Um, it's hard for me to actually say his channel name because, and on his show itself, he talks about it's kind of a running comic type of thing to actually be able to say his channel. But I'm talking about, of course, of Devon Tracy. And the reason I bring him up today is, like I said, he just did his video about free speech and how YouTube is censoring free speech. And it reminded me about the term of hero. Now, there are a lot of words that start with four words. Some of them are good, some are not so good. But hero, and how we look at it in our society, is overused so much. Of course, when a policeman is saving people, like the guys in Dallas that were going into the fire, or the firing of bullets back at them, I would consider them to be heroes. The firemen that went up in the twin towers to save people and then they end up being killed, those are heroes. But when, as much as I love sports, when I keep hearing that term all the time, and the term of hero, when it's related to a sports competition, sometimes is cringeworthy, and sometimes it does inspire me. I mean, the girl that won the Ultimate Fighter, she had cancer. She recovered from it and won this competition. Now, as somebody who's a cancer survivor, I don't really like the idea when somebody somehow beats cancer that it's looked at as a hero. That's not how cancer works. You don't. The most strongest people in the world is sometimes succumb to cancer and die. So I don't look at them any different than somebody that somehow got past it. I certainly don't look at myself as anybody better because I, quote unquote, defeated cancer. I was lucky when I got cancer. It was one that was treatable. Something had a decent out tub for most people. Mine was, I think it was like 50-50 or 70-40 or something like that. So I was lucky with that. So when people talk about using the word hero, and I don't really want to say this about Devon, although I think in a lot of ways he is. This is a man, the talent that he has, he could be, even though he has a decent following on YouTube, he could be huge. I mean, I'm talking about in the millions of subscribers, but he believes what he believes, and he is not afraid to speak his mind. Those of us who know that on my channel know that a while back that I sent him a video outlining why I felt that Hillary Clinton is not suitable to be president. He watched it, he responded. Obviously, we believe different things when it comes to that. But what I want to get out is this, and I want to dovetail it with what's coming out in a couple days when the new Ghostbusters movies come out. Already there's some reviews out there. Probably better than a lot of people thought. However, I think there's something going on here. There was a guy on TV or on YouTube that said he was not going to review the movie. He has a very large following, and he was said he was a misogynist because he didn't want to see the movie, even though he tried to explain in his video why he didn't want to go see it. The people on the left, they don't want to hear about that. They just want to say that, oh, you must be a misogynist or you live in your basement. So recently, the movies came out. There was a premiere. There have been some very bad reviews on it from responsible magazines or websites saying that it is a man bashing, over the top, man bashing type of movie, which is almost normal now. But the fact is, it said it. But before all this came out, Sony released it. The director came out and had like a preemptive strike to say that if you don't watch this movie, basically, that you're a misogynist. That they had to go through all this stuff because people didn't like the trailers, but it was all these guys that just didn't like it because a woman was, or 4 women were leading the team, or the film. So what I think what's going to happen here is, right now I think on Rotten Tomatoes it has a fresh rating. And I think a lot of people are so afraid that if they are against it, that it's going to hurt them in some way, that they don't want to be looked at as misogynist or anything like that, or racist, or whatever you want to call it. So they're giving the film probably something more than it deserves. There's been 4 or 5 reviews. One was a woman that pretty much said that. Said that it has those issues that people were talking about, that it falls flat on its surface. So I want to see how this works, and I want to see how these people that have these huge followings on YouTube or out in the media, are they going to be honest about it? Are they're going to call out what they see, even though we realize it's just a movie? Or are they just going to just do what a lot of people do now? They don't get involved anymore, or they just turn their head away from it. And in my sense, that's a way that they stop free speech. We should be able to say pretty much anything we want to say. And in his video that Devon put out yesterday, I think, or maybe it was today, and I'll link it below, he talks about the terms on YouTube now, especially when it comes to cyberbullying and hate speech. And it is basically, if the entity that is YouTube, or like Google, or if even Pandora now, who now are supporting Black Lives Matter, if you say anything against their beliefs, then now that's hate speech. And these are things that Akina Sarkeesian has said about. This is all coming from one side, and it comes from the left, and it comes from one entity, and it's feminism. Now, you can look on YouTube right now. Last night in Baton Rouge, the cops are coming in, and there's a video out there, and hopefully I'll find it, and I'll link it below, that they're white, fairly large white women in front of the protesters, stereotypically looking like feminists. And then when the cops came, you hear them saying, "They're touching women. You can't do that. You can't do." So they think they can do what they can do illegally, but at the same time, they want to have white knights. They want to be taken care of and not touched because they're women, but they're also feminists and they want to be taken care of. But at the same time, they're out in front of this. This has gone on since Missouri. At University of Missouri, these were feminist teachers that basically incited what happened at Missouri. And if you really look at the movement of Black Lives Matter, it's steeped in Marxism, and it's pretty easy to see this. And the thing is that it's strange to me that you can just call out anything that looks like it comes from the right, that might have some sort of, either it's 8 or 9 degrees of separations, that puts you back to the KKK if you're on the right, but where what I think is right now is probably a hate group like Black Lives Matter, and it isn't 8 or 9 degrees. It's right next to you, and I support it because of either my white guilt or whatever. But that's great. You can just support these things, but when you have an issues with it, and I'm someone like myself, and Devon are the same. We're both from the same generation. I'm a little older than he is, of course, but we're both liberals that grew up during that time. We don't like guns. I mean, I served for 24 years, and I don't like guns, but part of me is now starting thinking I might have to have one, and I hate them. But I am where I'm against him and I, when we talk about this, is I think he wants to abolish the Second Amendment. I don't believe that. I think he also understands that it will never happen in our country because how the Constitution works, but and how we differ on Clinton. But when I want him to continue to say what he has to say, whether I believe it or not, or agree with it or not, and I think he needs to have a higher platform. And when guys like him decide to say, you know what, I don't need this anymore, because apparently he has a good life, he has a nice-looking girlfriend, people like him. I think he probably came from money, which is great. You know, you should take it if you have it. He's been around the world. He doesn't really need that. But when guys like him decide that they're not going to do it anymore, that disturbs me, because I don't have the ability at this time, because of the issues that I have, to be at that type of front of things. It does take talent, and of course he has it. He realizes what the people like now. I mean, I'm older than he is, so we're a little different. But I worry that even though he doesn't have the largest subscriber base, that he's going to be silenced, and these are guys that we need. So when I started this video, I talked about hero. And every generations we have to maybe update that term. What is really a hero? Clearly, Martin Luther King was a hero, marching in the South when he knew that any time he could have got killed, and eventually he did. It was a hero to me when RFK went to Gary, Indiana that night after Martin was killed, and there were people in the crowd that didn't know it yet. It wasn't like now when you know a second after it happens, and he could have been killed there. And today would that have happened? Ask yourself that question. If you were in Baton Rouge and a huge black person, people in the black community just loved, and there was a politician that was running for office, and he had, let's say he didn't have exactly the same beliefs that you had, and this happened, and we find out that this beloved figure was killed by a white man. I'm just going to let that go through because I don't have any edit software. But what do you think would have happened in Baton Rouge? We have regressed, and that's a term that's true in so many areas. And people like Devon calls it out, and he holds people of other races and even religions to task when they're not acting like humans. And I'm not all the way on his side when it comes to atheism. I think there could be something out there. I guess that would call me an agnostic. But certainly he should be able to say that, and he has the facts on his side. We have to prove to him that there's something else there. You know, the idea that you can't prove that God is real is somehow a reason that it can be real. That doesn't work. It doesn't happen in a rational, logical sense. So he's right, and until we can prove that, which I'm not going to do because I think there's something else, not like just one thing that's looking over everything. But anyway, the question I have to say now, if that happened, do you think that that white person, if he was in that neighbor and he was talking about this and that they would just allow it to happen? That there would be some sort of violence there? And there are great people on both sides that are talking about this. And some may not like how they say it or the brashness of what they say. But sometimes that has to be out there to wake up people. And whether you like him or not, Devon has changed people's minds about this. People that have huge platforms, guys that were on the Young Turks, the guys like atheists. So people can change, and I'm concerned that we're going to allow this to happen. And when he talked about in his video about the book burning, and like the Nazis and all that stuff. I mean, it's true. This is what's happening online, and it's going to continue to happen. And this is where him and me would probably have one of our biggest arguments, that it almost always comes from the left, and he's trying to support a person that would continually do this. Clinton would be certainly on the same level of any feminist that says we can't say certain hurtful thing to women because apparently they can't deal with it. And so I want to salute him. In my mind, he is a hero in the online community, in the digital world. He may not have to go out there and fight, fight hand to hand, but he actually can contact and influence and inform people so much more than I could have done 10 years ago or 15 years ago with what I had in my mind, because of the way he does it, the fact that he's most of the time, because he's a human, we're all human. Sometimes I don't agree with him, but he is, I'm not going to say a necessary evil, because to me he's not evil, but he has to be there. People like him have to be there. So people like TJ or Dave Rubin and some of the other ones out there can't just go along just believe this mantra of the left. It's time for us to wake up, and for people like him to be on YouTube, I thank him to be there. So in the future, maybe we'll talk